Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Eden Zero, chapter 187. I thought we were going to be off this week because I thought the magazine was off this week, but then I remembered that Eden Zero has this habit of dropping a chapter during the break week for the magazine and then taking the next week off instead, so I think that's what's happening here. So we have a chapter now, we won't have a chapter next week. But anyway, when we last left our heroes, Team Shiki got separated by the sub-dimension program the Dark Stars have to face each member of the Dark Stars one-on-one. Wise is fighting Killer in a room in a hallway very reminiscent of the hospital where his mom died, I believe. Rebecca is fighting Clown in a circus. Homura is fighting Brigandine in like the area they already were. They just didn't really get teleported. But we learned that Brigandine is meant to be the counterpart to Valkyrie. Also, that Killer is probably the counterpart to Hermit. Wizard is, of course, the counterpart to Witch, and Clown to Sister, I guess, just by process of elimination. Meanwhile, Shiki, he's taken to an image of Granbell, where he sees these sort of replicas of all of the Granbell bots who are now dead, and also Witch. And when Witch starts talking about it's your silly little human hearts that are your weakness, you know, that's the last bit of evidence Shiki needs to like not really be swayed by these illusions, and he strikes at Witch, revealing that it's Wizard in disguise. Also, the crew with the Eden Zero, the ex-Draken Gang, Sister, Hermit, and Holy have started their fight against Dead End Crow, with Holy in a night gear modeled off of Witch. So with all that said, let's dive right on in chapter 187, Shiki versus Wizard. And our picture here is a seemingly irrelevant, given the chapter title there, image of Alpha Wise with a very young Rebecca and Happy, like, playing with a snail. It's cute, it's whatever. But we pick up right where we left off, with Wizard catching Shiki's fist as the Witch disguise fades away. And then all of the Granbell bots also fade away, and Shiki just stares Wizard down. Excuse me. And Witch sort of in comment in a blah, 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 and a counterpoint to what Shiki just said at the end of last chapter, which I will pull up again for the exact line. Wizard says, "Those silly little human hearts are your weakness," and Shiki counters, "No, it's because I have a heart." And then he throws the punch, "That you won't fool me." And Wizard responds to that, "I won't fool you because you have a heart? No, that is not the case. You took a swing at Witch, something impossible for you 3 years ago. This heart of yours is bending towards darkness." And he throws this, like, cane down, this, like, wizard staff down, as Shiki has to, like, jump away from it. But he's sort of making this assumption that, like, that because Shiki was more than able to work out that Wizard was playing him, given how, like, piss poor a job he did pretending to be Witch, that means that Shiki is bending towards darkness. And I want to focus on the darkness there for a minute, because Ziggy has spent so long emphasizing that he is in the right. What he does is good and just. And so, like, the fact that he makes this that Wizard makes this bending towards darkness analogy, it's kind of interesting to me. That, like, you know, in all of Ziggy, like, maybe he sees the fact that Shiki tried to punch someone who looked like Witch as a sign that Shiki is becoming the threat that Ziggy is, like, theorizing. I don't know. Either way, this, like, lightning emanates from the staff. And Shiki questions, "Thunder Ether? You have the same power as a Witch?" And that would make sense, given that he's Witch's counterpart. But Wizard clarifies, "The power I wield is magic." And it's like dust swallows up Shiki. Ice Ether. Okay, so he seems to be a bit more like jack of all trades than Witch-wise. But he launches that Ice Ether attack at Shiki and says, "We 4 Dark Stars are the next generation of Shining Stars, and their respective counterparts." And we have this image of Killer as Wizard goes on. "Hermit, the mind, is matched by the brain, Killer. Sister, the life, corresponds with Clown, the death." Okay, So Clown is just the death. That's his little epithet. Valkyrie, the sword, is matched by the armor, Brigandine. And I correspond with the shield of Eden's witch. I am Wizard, the spear of Eden's. But doesn't quite touch on the little thing I noted last week when we learned Brigandine and Killer's epithets at the same time, is that while Brigandine, and we learn here Clown and Wizard, their epithets are the opposite of their counterparts, life and death. And then we have the offense-defense of Valkyrie the sword and Brigandine the armor, and defense-offense with the shield witch and the spear wizard. The brain and the mind are the same thing. Like, there's not really a significant difference between your mind and your brain. Like, your mind, I guess, is a bit more, like, metaphorical, whereas the brain is the actual, bits inside your head. But, like, there's not really a significant difference there. It's an interesting thing, and I'm curious if Mashima's going anywhere with that, or if it's going to be something we don't think too hard about. Anyway, the staff, which I guess is also a spear, flies back into Wizard's hands. My spear is a galactic pole arm that can shatter any shield. And it sends this ether out towards, the ice crystals that Shiki's been trapped in, and shatters the ice. But then, as Shiki is freed from the ice by the shattering, he's able to grab the magic. Shocking Wizard, you caught my magic in your bare hand? And Shiki just glares at him, no, you must be holding it with your gravity. Which, there's an interesting thing. How does magic work, or I guess magic ether, work with the concept of gravity? I guess maybe he can just have gravity compressed around it on all sides so that it's not able to, it's being pushed towards the center point or something, unable to move in any direction. But it's still kind of weird. Anyway, Shiki does something with it. The witch comments, Wizard comments, now you compressed it. And Shiki looks at him, here, have it back. And he throws it at Wizard. Wizard jumps out of the way with air ether. And Shiki just jumps up to join him. That was fast. And Shiki goes on, Magimech attack, gravity fist, and he just decks Wizard, sends him flying back into the ground. But then we see these, magic circles all surrounding Shiki. What are these things? And the magic circles start shooting ether at him, and he dodges out of the way. Whoa! And he really has, it's a bit of a struggle to dodge them, but he is doing it. And Wizard casts another spell, Fire Ether, Black Blaze. And he creates this, fire tornado under Shiki. He's caught up in that. And Shiki takes the brunt of it. Ah! And Wizard tells him, your gravity doesn't hold a candle to Lord Ziggy's. And Shiki comments, well, see about that. And he, reaches his hand out and just scatters the flames. I guess compresses them down with his gravity. And Wizard is shocked. He smothered my flames? And up in the air, we see Shiki has already gone overdrive here. Why does he look like that? Overdrive? This contradicts our data. Has he altered himself in 3 years? That's an interesting thing. Because Shiki could use overdrive before Ziggy revived. Even before we got back to Granbell and we saw Ziggy come back to life, Shiki was already using overdrive. So how does that contradict the data? Also, we see he seems to be missing an eye. Oh, right, he missing the eye. That's an interesting little bit. The overdrive seems to destroy the prosthetic eye that he got in the aftermath of the Owie War. Because instead of still having that O-Tech eye, it's just flames in the eye socket. Magimech attack, Meteor Breaker, and he just shoves condensed gravity down at Wizard. Oh no, he flies down to fight Wizard, to punch Wizard, and Wizard tries to hold him back. But then we see the ether lines on Shiki's arm are starting to fly off. And Shiki sort of panics. What the? My energy is fading? And it all enters Wizard. Drain ether. Magic that siphons away the ether of my opponent. The more powerful the ether unleashed upon me, the more powerful the ether I absorb. Okay, so that seems to be tied in with Elsie and Justice somehow. Whereas, though they drain the ether of a star, he's just absorbing the ether of Shiki. But while that might make Elsie and Justice stronger than like Wizard's drain ability, Wizard's drain ability knocks out his opponent or makes his opponent unable to fight, which is sort of an even higher power up in a way. The more powerful the ether unleashed upon me, the more powerful the ether I absorb. And Shiki falls to the ground. No! And Wizard just stares at him from above. This is the end, Shiki. Battle dress requip. So he's even using the same sort of concept as Justice and Elsie. And he requips into this. It's slightly reminiscent of Shiki's ether gear. Not terribly, but it's sort of there. A human can never hope to defeat a machine. And then Shiki sort of, it feels like for a moment that Shiki is sort of, like maybe Wizard is using Shiki's gravity ether to crush at Shiki. Grr. And then he has his realization. What the? His memories. They're falling into my mind. Just like what happened when he fought Draken. Okay. What? Memories. And we see this like little data flashback. You're like a wizard. And it's him and Witch. Okay. Hold on. Because my first instinct is that they look kind of human there. You know, we see on page, we get a good close-up of it on page 18. These sort of like lines down Wizard's face where the various like parts of his face plating, so to speak, meet. But those lines aren't there in this flashback. And Witch might have had them too, and never paid too much attention to that. Whether or not Witch had those kinds of lines was never really important before now. Let me go back to the last chapter and see. The bit of last chapter we see of Witch, we can't really tell, but maybe she did, maybe she didn't. I don't quite remember. If she had those sorts of like lines on her face, because she doesn't in that flashback. But she does in the present. Looking, I went into the wiki, and you can see a shot of her full face. She has these sorts of like where a face part would be manufactured, and in this flashback she doesn't have it. What I'm getting at is, were Witch and Wizard human once? Most important moment is that they knew each other. And also were maybe lawyers? Because Witch calls Wizard the magician of the courtroom, and there's this heart. Like, they're like romantically involved. And Wizard comments, if I'm a wizard, then you must be a witch. A steel sorceress with ironclad logic. So, like, even the steel sorceress name is about how good a lawyer she is? Okay. And in the flashback, Witch comments, ugh, that makes me sound so rigid and stiff. And Wizard sort of laughs. And Shiki looks up. You knew Witch? And that's where we leave off. That's where the chapter ends. Okay, so were Witch and Wizard human once? Like, they knew each other. I think that's the revelation we're supposed to be drawing from this. But I think they might have been human once. And then, so that they were never full-on androids, they're Otacs. Which is fascinating. I don't know. I mean, it's not the most surprising thing in the world to see someone become an Otac and then hate humanity. We saw that with Mueller. But still, you know, I always had the sense that Mueller was some sort of like, you know, peon to Ziggy. In part because he was, you know, originally a human. But Wizard is like upper echelon. You know, like top lieutenants. I don't know. That changes things. Also, the fact that they're lawyers is just so... For some reason, I'm like, why are they lawyers? Why was that their backstory? I don't know. I hope we get more information on that, though, because there's definitely something there. I don't know. I don't know how to... I don't know where to go. I don't know what to even make of all this. But let's focus on that later. The fight we get is a lot of fun. There's some good choreography here. As Shiki and Wizard just go all out with like these various types of ether that Wizard has available. And Shiki just goes at him with everything he can, including Overdrive. And God, Shiki's Overdrive is so good. Also, seemingly destroying... or actually, it doesn't destroy Shiki's fake eye. We can sort of see Shiki's full face on the very final panel of the chapter. It's sort of blurry, but he does have both eyes there. I guess Overdrive just covers up the Otech eye, I guess. But it's an interesting thing that Overdrive now turns Shiki back into a one-eyed guy. But yeah, Shiki's sort of seemingly outmatched, especially if like any ether he pulls can just get drained by Wizard. So maybe this flashback will end up being the key to like turning Wizard. Like Wizard ends up betraying Ziki or something. I don't know. But this flashback seems to be... It's definitely going to be integral to this fight. It might be integral to a lot more than this fight, but I cannot imagine this flashback is not how Shiki ends up winning. Somehow, some answer here leads to Shiki winning this fight. But yeah, I don't know what's going to come of that. But we'll just have to wait and see. So all in all, a fun fight chapter, but that fucking flashback at the end, I don't know what's going to come of that. But with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe. Or, do whatever makes you happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!